Welcome to the Jungle, Bengals fans. I'm Kyle Phelps, and this is the nitty-gritty nerdy stuff that I started a YouTube channel for in the first place. Yeah, it's not me losing my mind in an embarrassing reaction video or a comedic take on the state of the Bengals like most of my best performing videos on this channel. But I know some of y'all enjoy it, and screw you, it's my channel, I do what I want. We're going to be breaking down my predictions for the Bengals defensive roster in this video, at least for like the week 1 depth chart, because I'm really just looking at the cut down deadline here. It'd be silly to try to predict who's going to be like the 8th string linebacker in week 14 or whatever. If you're one of those big dumb nerdy nerds like me though, you're going to love this video, so make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. I love to have an excuse to put out more in-depth videos like this, and for you guys to let you know when all of my content comes out. So like with the last video, if you just came here to listen to me talk about who the starters are going to be, what they're going to do this year, then you came to the wrong video. I will talk about the starters. I'm letting you know right now, it's probably going to be pretty obvious who they are. There's not really a lot of controversy there. Like, you know, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, BJ Hill, DJ Reader, that's the defensive line. It's the starting defensive line. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, they're the linebackers. Duh. Chidobe Awuzie and Cam Taylor-Britt, those are the outside corners. There's no contest there. Mike Hilton is starting in the slot. Like, it's all super obvious. The only position that I think we can really have a discussion about who's going to be starting in week 1 is at safety. And even then, like, we all know Dax Hill is going to be starting at free safety because, like, I mean, it's not going to be Tyson Anderson, as great of a preseason as he's had, but strong safety, there is a little bit of a question mark. Like, you know, Jordan Battle looks pretty good, but I think the Bengals are probably planning on going with veteran safety Nick Scott for now because that's just kind of the way they always do things. We have barely seen him in the preseason, but like with all other starters, I think that's by design. So for the depth positions, for me, that's where it's a lot more fun to talk about. On defensive line, you've got first-round pick Myles Murphy and a guy who should have been a first-round pick in Joseph Osai, who are going to be the first ones off the bench in the rotation. And then I think Cam Sample is the other guy who makes the roster, kind of shoring it up at the end, which was a pretty difficult decision, by the way. The Bengals have really great depth at edge right now, as evidenced by the guys who are getting cut here. You got Jeff Gunter, Owen Carney, Raymond Johnson III, and my Bobcat brother Tarrell Basham. They've all shown flashes in the preseason. Carney and Raymond Johnson III in particular. But I don't think any of them have done enough quite yet to supplant the trust that the coaching staff seems to have in Cam Sample. At linebacker, I think it's pretty clear that the first guy off the bench is going to be Akeem Davis-Gaither. And frankly, he's probably good enough to be a starter on a lot of other teams, so I imagine the Bengals are going to feature him heavily in the rotation, even though they just paid Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt over the offseason. They want to get their money's worth. But at the same time, who knows how much longer Akeem Davis-Gaither is going to be with the team because he's probably going to get a starting job somewhere else at some point, so I think they use him quite a bit. Marcus Bailey, I think, is going to get that next spot off the bench, and then coaching staff favorite Joe Bachie is going to round it out with the backup spot at the end. Cornerback, now that is a fun position to talk about for the Bengals right now because there's just so much young talent behind, you know, these two big veteran signings that the Bengals have made during the Zach Taylor era. Like, at outside corner, you got one of those guys, Chido Awuzie, and then you got Cam Taylor-Britt, who is going to be the starting outside corners there like I talked about earlier. Then they're going to be backed up by 2nd round pick DJ Turner and 7th round pick, but impressive player, DJ Ivey. And in the slot role, I think the Bengals are going to keep Jalen Davis, mostly for an experience thing. You know, he's been with the team a few years now. His experience, I think, will be heavily valued by the coaching staff with all of the young players on the roster right now. Back to safety, as much as I personally like him, I don't think there's much of a shot for former Kentucky Wildcat Yusuf Corker to make the roster. Jordan Battle was a high draft pick, and Tyson Anderson's been on fire all preseason. So I think that one's pretty cut and dry, honestly. Finally, I think the specialist positions are pretty easy. Of course, you've got Evan McPherson, Money Mac. He's going to be returning as kicker. There's no competition for him, and even if there was, I mean, dude's basically a legend at this point. And Cal Adamitis, he's the only long snapper on the team, so he's going to be the long snapper. There is a bit of a, not quite a battle, a little bit of a question mark at punter. Even then, not really. Like, we all know it's going to be Brad Robbins, right? Brad Robbins is going to be the punter because he's done a pretty good job this preseason. And I don't see much of an avenue for Drew Chrisman at this point to beat him out unless something crazy happens. Finally, the returner role is going to go to Charlie Jones, who was easily one of the best kick returners in the most recent draft class. Right now, I think he's equally good at returning kicks as Trent Taylor, and in my last video, Trent Taylor didn't make the roster, so I think this job's easily going to go to Charlie. And there it is, guys, the defense and the special team side of the equation. We'll see on Tuesday what happens, and I'll definitely do a breakdown of how well, or poorly in some cases, that I probably did on these projections. Most likely, it's going to be a live form video because I'm in school right now, and you guys can probably tell from the lack of consistency with the content lately, I'm having trouble getting things out quickly, so I'll probably do a live video breaking down how I did. But let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments below, and I'll feature my best ones in the next video, like this one, from a discussion on my most recent video about the offensive roster projections. So Jim's point in this conversation was basically that the Saints offense sucked, and Mikey, being a Saints fan, obviously disagreed. So I do agree with Mikey that Derek Carr is underrated as hell, but I think Jim made a good point when he said, name a good receiver. Now, Chris Olave, first of all, Jim, like, don't disrespect Chris Olave, he's a really good receiver, but other than him, Saints don't really have a whole lot going on as far as the pass-catching game goes, and especially with Alvin Kamara being suspended, it's not looking like it's going to be a good start for the Saints at the very least, and I just don't see how they're going to get going on offense. And then on top of that, it's going to be Derek Carr's first season, and as you guys know from watching my channel, I generally don't believe in quarterbacks in their first year with a new team as a free agent. It generally takes a little bit of time. Peyton Manning's happened, but Derek Carr is not Peyton Manning. I think he's pretty good, but he's not Peyton Manning. And then on top of that, I'm just not feeling that offensive line, and the tight end options, I don't believe in the Saints offense. I really don't. So, I mean, for me, Carr and the receiving core isn't necessarily the issue here, but there's a big issue, you know? But again, we'll see. Until then, y'all can always catch more of what I do at Kyle Phelps92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/ThePhelps, Butt Fumble Sports, the Battle of Ohio podcast on the Spot Pod Network, and right here if you subscribe. We are so close to the beginning of action that matters, guys. I'll leave y'all, as always, with a hootie!